insane.
There's no vibrations on the mic, so we'll try turning it back on.
Me, myself, I got some Liquid Death, some Dr. Death tonight. Their Dr. Pepper version. You sure? Because I can hear him just fine. That's interesting if you guys can't. OBS says he has audio. I can hear him through OBS. I don't know what's going on then. Oh, the joys of doing things live.
This is the song that...
I'm gonna talk. We're working on seeing if we can get this figured out. James is gonna hold the power button on the mic real quick. Jesse, you sure?
Possible.
Okay. I don't have an indicator on my end. Oh yeah. Shibi, you gotta love. Oh, wait, you guys can hear me now?
Thankfully, next stream, this shouldn't be an issue because no more wireless next stream, hopefully.
All right, if you guys can hear me, type Linux in chat. I don't know if they heard me yet. All right, we got a Linux. Okay, good. So, yeah. So, you know, first off, like I said, we're doing the Baja Blast. Jeremy apparently is out of his Mountain Dew this week, and he's streaming with Keela right now. So I've got some extra for him. Now something I don't know if you guys heard, but you know, the things I do for tutorial reasons, I did something I have not done on a computer I use in ages, and that is I installed Windows. And I am doing this so I can show you guys from a full Windows install, like most of you guys might be doing, that how to get it done and everything. So, all right. Well, I guess without further ado, let me take a puff. And let's get into it. So, I've got this computer right here. It is currently running Windows 11. Don't ask me how I did it. It's does not meet the specifications. But we got this going. So in order to do Linux, there's a few tools and stuff to get. So I'm going to run the dreaded Edge. The Shiobi, if you want to delete your Arch partition and follow along, you can. But if you've got Arch working and you like Arch, I am not a distro hater. To me, the distribution of Linux that works for you is the best Linux. So, few tools. You know, you're going to need something to write an image to a thumb drive. My go-to is Rufus, but things like Balerna Etcher also works. Fedora Image Writer. I believe even the Raspberry Pi Imager, you can write to it. I've just been using Rufus on Windows forever. Linux has other tools that you can use to make writable media, but since we're starting from a Linux basis, you would use Rufus. Yeah, since we're starting from a Windows basis, you would use something like this. The other thing that you're going to need is an operating system. So in this case, I'm doing Ubuntu because we are, not only are we a Linux channel, we are a 3D printing channel. A lot of people are used to the Debian Ubuntu environment in the 3D printing world.
I really tried to get him to start on Arch, guys. I tried my best.
Because, you know, Raspberry Pi's main OS, Raspbian, is based off of Debian. So we're going to go through and do a Ubuntu install. Now, Ubuntu just had a few things happen to them. They were the recent victims of a DDoS attack. So when I was going through and setting up this stream initially, I happened to access their site on the days where they were sitting here and getting DDoSed, so their entire site was down. But in between then, they're also sitting here and they've just released a new version. So they have 2604. And so to download it, you literally just go to downloaded Ubuntu, download Ubuntu desktop. I tell it, no, you can't spy on me. And then for most of your computers, your laptops and everything, it will be Intel or AMD architecture. For a Raspberry Pi or for some Windows computers that are running like the Snapdragon processors, it will be the AMD or the ARM, AMD ARM 64. Theoretically, it should be ARM 64 for Mac. Last I heard, Mac has still locked down their systems. You cannot install Linux on a Mac anymore. Now, normally we'd go through, I'd sit here and show you the process of writing the image to a thumb drive. I don't think you guys want to sit around for 15 minutes or so, or however long this computer is going to take to write that. So I've gone and I've actually already burned the image onto the thumb drive for us. But all you would do, you'd come into your burner of choice, open it up, and then the device, I have an 8 gig device that I can't. You would select your ISO, which I do not have it on here because I burned it on a different computer. So let's see here. Looking in chat here, Raj, Linux Kali is just a Linux distribution that has tools built in for cybersecurity already. Just like with any tool, it can be used for both good and bad. Going through there, probably using terms some people aren't familiar with. So in Linux, just like in 3D printing, where we have different companies that make different printers, a distribution is a particular version of Linux. This distribution we're using is Ubuntu, which is based off of the main part of the Linux called Debian. So they took Debian, they put their own stuff into it, called it Ubuntu, and people fork these things all the time, going out and out and out to different distributions. ARM nerds will always find a way down under. It's cool to see that they got the A18 Mac working. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go through and restart this computer now. And it's going to back me out of full screen while I spam this button. Let's see here. There's some good work on Debian and Ubuntu Debian for RISC-V too. Yep. They are definitely not production ready for the RISC-V yet, but it's nice to see there being some competition to the x86, x64 architecture coming out there. Now, when you're booting to a thumb drive, it's going to vary depending on your system. This happened to be an old HP box that I had laying around. To get into their startup menu, it's escape. There's other computers where it's F12, delete, F2, all sorts of things. So you would want to look at your manufacturer or your motherboard manufacturer to see, what, if they even have a boot key, or if not, what their BIOS key is, so you can change your boot order. In this case, I'm going to go to our boot devices, and I'm going to go to our little PNY boot device. And then we are going to try or install Ubuntu. Let's see here while we're waiting for this to boot up. Naystream, welcome on in. JS installs. welcome. So I will say this little animation you're seeing for the loading circle is a new animation, and I got to give Canonical credit. It's kind of cool. It beats the old regular circle. It adds some interest to it. Now, when I say this is an older machine, this is running a 6th generation Intel Core i5 processor. So, you know, not a slouch of machine at all, but in terms of technology and everything, it is quite a bit older. They left off, I think the last generation number they had was 15, and then they've had 3 processors since then. So, you know, that's 12-year-old technology in this thing. So that's one of the great things about Linux is you can actually run it on older hardware.
Especially with Windows 11 now, where this is
Yeah.
technically too old. It doesn't have the right hardware to run Windows 11.
Yeah, so you can take that machine that, hey, this can't run Windows 11. Well, a lot of times it can, and it can do it perfectly fine. When Microsoft just sat here and put an artificial limitation on it. But you throw Linux on it and cool. You know, Netflix, YouTube, browsing the web, checking your email, light gaming, word processing. This will do it perfectly fine. Okay, so here's our new, whenever Ubuntu sits here and comes out with a new version, they always have a special background. It's always this purplish pink, but then they'll have like their mascot in the background. One of the cool things that Linux will do is they kind of have a try before you buy feature. They call it a live disk, where I could actually run this full operating system as it is right now off of this USB drive. And start going. And then when I restart the computer, everything's gone. But the Windows that I had installed underneath here wasn't affected. So, you know, if you want to try it or something like that beforehand, it gives you a way that you can try different desktop environments, try different flavors or distributions of Linux to find out which one works for you. But if you want to just install it, it literally starts up by going here. Let's see here. Linux system requirements, electricity optional. That is actually quite funny you say that, Nastrium. Or Natsurdium. There we go. Because they have literally gotten Linux running on an actual potato. Like, not a potato class computer, an actual potato that was pulled from the ground. So yeah, Linux requirements really are just, can power go through it somehow? And do you have a way to store data? So, you know, hey, we don't need any accessibility options. We're just going to click next. We're doing US English. And then I've got a wired connection, so we're going to tell it to use that. And you can see I can go try Ubuntu before I even install it, and mess around with it, see what it's like, see how I like it. And if I don't like it, I don't have to install it. But if I do like it, I can go ahead and install it. But I'm going to just go ahead and install. And then for most people, you're going to do the interactive installation. There are ways to, if you're putting this out to like hundreds of desktops where you can automate it and everything through scripts and networks and all of that, but we're just doing it on a single install. So we're going to run here, and just for ease of use, we're going to go default selection. It's going to install the essentials that most people use to get stuff running. If you want to kind of fine tune it a bit, as you're doing the install, you can do the extended selection, and that'll let you, hey, I'd like you to install a web browser, but don't install the Office productivity suite. So I don't need a word processor and a spreadsheet maker and all of that. But we're just going to go default here. And then I'm going to sit here and enable third-party software and graphics and Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi has always been one of those things on Linux that has been kind of a roller coaster. It'll go from, hey, everything's working, to why doesn't this one thing work? And then you also have things like NVIDIA graphics cards, where NVIDIA doesn't want to play ball with Linux. It might have something to do with the creator of Linux giving them the middle finger in a national conference, but who knows? But then also, if you're going to be watching like movies and stuff like that, go ahead and check the, install additional media formats. That way, it just makes it easier. You don't have to go searching for them. So we're going to click next. Now, here is where you can do a few different things. The first option on here is, hey, take my Windows drive, shrink it down, and then install Ubuntu alongside of it, so I can actually have both running. There are some people that need Windows for work, so that might be something that you might want to do. That way, hey, you can just go and with a quick reboot of your computer, you can switch back and forth between the two. In this case, there's only two reasons that I need Windows running in this house. One is for my partner, and that's because they don't want to deal with Linux. They know Windows. That's how they want to do. They're not very techy. Cool. They run Windows on their computers. The other is for our main streaming machine, and that is only because Elgato refuses to make their software for Linux. And, with streaming, things like Elgato lights and capture cards and everything like that, they've made a name for themselves making good products, so kind of need that to work. Tom, welcome on in. Yeah, the only question you need to do is, will it run Doom? Let's see. And that's Certium. You got a friend to switch to Linux instead of walking them through the installation or the phone. You just said, yeah. And that's something like when you get into it, you can just send people, hey, run this, it'll take care of everything for you. But in this case, we're going to tell our computer, because we don't want Windows on this at all anymore, wipe everything out, use everything you can, and install Linux. So we're going with the second option. You can also do things like manual installs and things of that nature. In this case, we wanted to go on our NVMe drive because I happen to have a 500 gig SSD, NVMe SSD in here, and a 1 terabyte mechanical drive. Now, in this case, I'm not going to do encryption because there's nothing sensitive on here. It's a demonstration computer. But if you wanted to sit here and kind of help protect your computer, hey, you were worried that if you had banking files or something on there, and if someone were to steal your computer, you could encrypt it. And so that way, if someone were to get their hands on it without your password, this computer's a paperweight. Kind of. They could wipe everything out and, throw their own version throw Windows back on it or whatever they wanted to do, but they would not be able to get access to your data without your password. But in this case, I'm just going to set it up no encryption. Let's see here. We're just going to call this computer YouTube. My username is going to be Penguin Makers. I don't care if you guys see this password, because I literally just use this for demonstrations. Now here's where you can sit here and make, unlike Windows, where if you have a password on it, you have to use it. You can actually sit here and tell this thing, yes, my computer has a password. Don't make me type it in to log in. I'm going to uncheck that for this one just because it makes this a bit easier. And then the Active Directory, unless you're in a business or you've got some fancy networking at home, and if you have that at home, you already know what Active Directory is and how to use it. But this is typically something you'll only see in very specific home labs or businesses. Let's see here. LTX, how you doing? A Deb Decanit? Yeah.
You are
Adeb.
so good with names.
Yes,
I'm so
I am.
proud of you.
I'm great with names. Adeb, we're just gonna call you Adeb. How you doing? Neo Tracer, how you doing from Argentina? Nice. We're getting all over the place here today. All right, so then we just go next. In this case, we're gonna pick our time zone. I'm in Eastern time. So we're gonna click next. And you can see it tells us what it's gonna be doing to everything. In this case, you know, our 1 terabyte drive and our thumb drive is going to be unchanged, but the NVMe drive, it's going to change, and it's going to write our boot sector and all of our directories to this drive. Hey, thanks for stopping on in. We are always looking for, I'm always appreciative of new people coming in, you know. And we got Egypt, so hey, it is very late, very early in the morning for you right now. I was about to say late at night, but I'm like, no. They've passed the dateline.
Well, that's the best time to watch YouTube, don't you know?
I mean, I've got the Australians in Egypt over here. They've got the best thing already. They're already on Star Wars Day. But yeah,
do you think it's any coincidence that Steam decided to release their controller on Star Wars Day?
a nerdy company released something on one of the biggest nerd days there is. It's complete coincidence. There was no planning in that whatsoever. So at this point, now we get to do what 40% of IT work is. Hurry up and wait. Actually, yeah, James. Yeah, I cannot wait for that show Down Under. I've got to see that. And then we've got the new Grogu, Mandalorian and Grogu movie coming out. That's going to be awesome. The thing I'm waiting for later this year is Ahsoka Season 2. I'm a huge Ahsoka fan. Because she is no Jedi.
I think you might be right on that. I can definitely confirm my sleep schedule is less than ideal.
Oh, Nat, there definitely is. For those that have been in the Linux community for a long time, we didn't used to have all these nice distributions where everything was packaged together. You had to compile everything yourself, and if one thing didn't work, you had to go back and recompile everything. But then you'd sit here, you'd get everything working, and then you find out about this new thing, so then you had to go do it all again. And there's like, I'll have to find it at some point, but there's a meme where like somebody introduces their friend to Linux, and then it's like, I haven't heard from this guy in a week. And he goes over and checks on him. The guy's got a beard like all the way down to his knees a week later. His eyes are wide open and bloodshot. He's like, I just need to compile the kernel one more time.
On another good note for Star Wars Day is I was supposed to serve jury duty tomorrow. Thankfully, I got an email this afternoon telling me I didn't need to come in, so I'm happy about that.
The Force was with him. Exactly. You can't sleep when there's a kernel error. The one that I haven't even bothered looking into. I just kind of told it to turn off because I'm just like, it's working. I don't care about this error, but the new Pop OS, their Cosmic Desktop, always gives me an iBus error whenever the computer first starts up, and I'm just like, not today. Not today. I just want to watch YouTube. And it doesn't stop the computer from working. But I think it is an actual issue with Cosmic because I've had it on Ubuntu. I've had it on Fedora. I've had it show up on Pop OS even, so.
I can't believe it took them that long down under to realize that I'm not.
See, Nat has the meme. Yep. Oh no, James has never been a fine, upstanding citizen. So, just so it gives us something a bit more interesting on here, let's pull up the terminal so we can see exactly what it's doing. It's a bash terminal. So did everybody have good weekends? I know for some of you the weekend's over. For others, you know, the last day of it. I'm sitting here waiting because I've got a week's left of work and then I get to go on vacation. And I get to go see my parents and possibly go back down to Fabrico. But this is the fun part. This is usually when, if I'm not streaming, I'll sit here and just let this go. I'll go off and do something else. Come back an hour later and, oh, look, it's done. When did it finish? I don't know. But I just let it run.
Hey, Penguin, I got a question for you.
I might have an answer.
Do we have any updates on the Voron?
We do. We are going to be getting back into 3D printing content next stream. The only thing I'm waiting on one delivery, and that's from West 3D, and that's most of our parts for what I'm going to be doing, because after the disaster, I worked with a few people offline, and after the disaster that was Clicky, we are going to be going over to Cartographer, but we're going to make some changes to get that done. So, down under, hopefully soon you'll be able to see that. Granted, I'm not going to sell you my Voron, but I'm pretty sure you can go on Facebook Marketplace and buy someone else's finished Voron. Actually, Mad Dog, I did not have time off to do the new studio, believe it or not. It was just like a 3-day weekend that we kind of did stuff in. Most of that was actually housework. The studio, Didn't take long at all. It was spring cleaning that took forever. Let's see here. Down Under's got his tickets for Mando already. I sat here and just went and, you know, a lot of you guys know I'm a Japanese animation fan. And back in February, one of the animes I watched released their second movie. And it just got released here to the States. So I got to go see that. And it's that time I got reincarnated as a slime. It was a pretty good movie. Best thing is, you know, I went and saw the subtitled version, which, you know, that involves reading, so most Americans are like, no! So it was like me and like 3 other people that were really big fans of the movie, so we're sitting here comparing things as the movie's going on. It was a great time. Let's see here. The book is still... At least 4 more streams. I mean, there'll be infinitely more streams because the Waron's never done. For those of you that came in because we're doing Linux content, we all like, and you didn't catch the beginning, we not only are we fans of Linux here, we also do 3D printing. You can see I've got the 3D printer going in the background.
But no, I had no idea based on looking behind you.
Yeah. This is actually the newest model that I just finished printing. Found this on Printables. They call it the Circuit Caddy, and it's just a little pin holder, but it's got a little circuit design on it, and I just thought it looked cool, so I'm printing out a bunch of these. I'm going to actually be going and giving them as gifts to my coworkers. So, fun little thing. Yeah, John Underbaker. Oh, it was exhausting. Movie started at 8:50 p.m. Got out at midnight. All right. So our install finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to restart now. And then a lot of times what this will do is this will tell us, hey, remove your install media. Maybe. Sometimes it'll tell you to remove the install media, hit enter, and then it'll complete its restart. Other times it'll just do restart. Ah. That's one great thing about 3D printers. Hey, this thing broke. Cool. Let me just design up a part and print it for it. So it's a nice little fun little thing. So what started me with Linux is I actually started back in the mid-90s when a friend gave me a hand-me-down computer. Oh, yep. Give me 1 second. It's saying remove our install medium. Press enter, and it's going to reboot. But so he gave me an old computer. It was running Windows 95, and you know, it was just, I had been going around to computer shows and had gotten some of those discs with trial software. Well, there happened to be a version of Red Hat on one of those discs, and so, you know, I put that on there. You know, learned how to install that and everything, and format a hard drive that way. Because before that, you know, our family, we had a Commodore 64, and we had a family computer running Windows 3.11, but this was my first personal computer, so I got going on that. And back then, dial-up was still a thing, so bulletin board systems were still a thing, and I'm sitting here running this operating system. You know, I came from a Commodore 64, and then I went to Windows 3.11, that all of a sudden went from text-based interface to, look, there's pictures. And then, you know, Windows 95 was out, and so, hey, more text-based pictures, and we went back to this thing and saw that, hey, you know, doing things like dial-up and all that were actually a lot easier. So that started me into Linux. Well, then, you know, sat here, eventually, you know, started using it for school. Well, school was all about Microsoft Office. I couldn't get that to run on Linux because I needed the graphic interface, so I switched back to Windows. But Linux never really died for me. Then, you know, kept going on. Then when we got into high school and things like that, it was, you know, I'd kept up with it and everything, but hadn't installed it in a while. Just installed, back then it was Ubuntu, a different desktop environment of Ubuntu, and I could browse the web, I could do everything I needed with it, and so I started using that. Well, then, you know, kept up with that, was loving it. Then I caught the MMO bug and switched back to Windows because WoW and all that just worked better for me on Windows. You know, went to school, did programming and all that, and just realized, hey, let's give Linux a shot again as a full-time running, because, you know, I'd been using it for work and stuff like that, and just kept up with it. And since then, I haven't, the only thing that I touch Windows for nowadays is either to help my partner fix their computer or help a client at work fix theirs. So
long story long.
Yeah. Long story long, it was in and out, in and out, in and out, to finally just one day, screw it, I'm going Linux. All right, so this is just your welcome screen. Hey, welcome to this. You know, do you want to turn on location services? No. Do you want to help improve them? Not right now. You know, I am a dark mode person, so we're going to just go dark mode right from the beginning. We can download apps. So one of the things that's changed in Linux over the years is it used to be that when you want to install a program, you had to get the source code for it, compile it, run it, and then, you know, that would go. Then they went into tarballs where it was kind of already in there and you could run commands to just kind of make them work, which were tarballs are just it's a version of compression. So think of like a zip file or a RAR file in Windows, which are on Linux as well, but they can also be compiled into an executable program. Well, then we got into repositories where, hey, they were already compiled for you. You just told it what you wanted, and it would download and install it for you and get all the dependencies so all the things that are needed for the program to run. And now we're at the point where we even have app stores like your phones, where you can just open up an app store and be like, hey, look, there's all this stuff. Oh, hey, I want, you know, a browser. So I can just search browser. And, you know, there, oh, look, right from here, I can install Chromium, Brave, Firefox, Opera. And just install them this way. Yeah. Ahmed, it's definitely a journey for Linux for me. But the first thing I always do whenever I install a new Linux distribution is I actually come to the terminal and check for updates. Now, with the new App Store, you can actually do your updates right from here. It'll actually tell you, hey, there's updates that need to be done and things like that. If you come down here to manage, you can see updates are available. You check for updates, you know, it says that there's updates for some apps because Ubuntu doesn't strictly work off of their repos anymore. They now use a thing called a snap package, where it's kind of a self-contained little application. The advantage of that is that, hey, you get that version, you know it's going to work because everything it needs to run is within its own self-contained thing. The downside is hey, you need to update it. Sometimes it's, hey, you update to a new snap. Well, that's a whole new snap. It can't modify what was in the other one. Let's see here. Opera. You want big and I want big. Oh. Stupid spell checker. So yeah, but you can see that's how easy it was to do an update. But one of the other cool things about Linux, a Proudmoore server for WoW. I can't, honestly, it's been so long since I've been on WoW, I can't remember what server I was on. Let's see here. Options on Nix Package Manager. You're running NixOS. I have not run NixOS yet, so I'm not sure which package manager they use. The three main ones, you know, you have Ubuntu, which their package manager, whenever you've done like updates for your 3D printer and you type in apt install whatever, apt or apt is Ubuntu's package manager. Fedora, so Ubuntu, Debian, and all their derivatives all use apt. Red Hat, Fedora, they used to use an update called Yum, but now they use DNF. Yum still works, but DNF is kind of the evolution of it. Does the same thing as apt though, you know, instead of sudo apt install Clipper, which won't work, but you would do sudo DNF install Clipper. Same exact function. Now, that being said, you know, Down Under's making a thing about spell checker. Linux, for those that don't know, is case sensitive. So let me make this a bit bigger here. Yeah, there we go. There's my zoom. Can you guys read that now? So run with a capital R, while this and this are the exact same things to us. To Linux, they are different. So, you know, if I were to sit here and make a new folder, so mkdir test. If I look, hey, here's my little folder called test. Now, if I do RM space tac capital R test, that'll remove it. But so it's not there anymore. Now, if you notice, I'll make that same directory, but this time I'll do rm tac lowercase r, which are different types of recursion. They'll both remove it, but Linux views those as two completely different commands, even though they're both rm-r. Capital R, lowercase r, completely different. But since we're up to date, one of the cool things about Linux is you can have different desktop environment. What a desktop environment is kind of how your computer looks, the look and feel of it. Some of the main ones out there, there's GNOME, which is what Fedora and Ubuntu use. Well, Ubuntu kind of uses by default. There's KDE, XFCE, Mate, Cinnamon. So the cool thing is let's say I didn't like the way this GNOME looked. I could sit here and go out and download a version of Ubuntu that already had a different desktop environment built into it. But what I can also do is let's do Ubuntu so we're going to tell it to install the Mate desktop, and yes, the official pronunciation is Mate. So it's going to sit here and say, hey, this is everything I need to install. Do you want to continue? Now, just like we went over last week, you kind of want to confirm, are these things good? It does give some suggestions, but these things in the green, it needs to install to get this thing working. So all we're going to do is tell it, we're going to hit enter, because whatever the capital letter is here is the default. So if you just hit enter, that's what it'll do. But you can see I'm already at 620 things that it's gotten, and it installed it that fast. We are going to go GDM, because now that light GDM, let's say you were running on a very old system that did not have, like you were running 2 gigs of RAM, and this was a 16-year-old computer. The light DM desktop manager is a lighter weight thing, so it doesn't take up as much resources, so it can run on older hardware and still be snappy. Now, you can do stuff like this through the App Store and stuff like that. I prefer doing it through the terminal because there are more options you can do. You have a bit more control, but not everyone is as comfortable with the terminal, so there are ways to do it through the App Store and things of that nature. But if you do get into Linux, I would sit here and say, if you're just looking for something to check your email, do some web browsing and some word processing, you don't need to get familiar with the terminal. But if you sit here and really want to get into Linux, I would learn the terminal, because just going to a store and clicking install doesn't teach you how these things are done. But when you're in the terminal, you have to look up and learn the command, and then if something goes wrong, what this was the process it was doing. Oh, look, this went wrong during the process, and you can fix it. Ahmed, I am not familiar with that term. Let's see here. But you can see, as old as this system is, it's still kind of flying through all of this stuff. Because it's a bunch of lightweight programs to get this thing done. They don't take up much space. And so they just kind of fly through it. And I'm going to install a few other of the desktop environments just right here. That way we could just kind of go one to the next and kind of show the different options that are out there. We'll do that on another stream. No. But as James just pointed out, you know, the reason I'm showing Ubuntu is there is a lot of support out there for it, and there are a lot of programs out there written specifically for the Debian environment in the 3D printing community.
There's more for Arch.
Not for the 3D printing community. Like for instance, Orca Slicer that we use. You can get into a flat pack, or they have a package that is pre-made for the apt installer called a Debian package or a DEB package, and they make one for Orca specifically for that is DEB. Let's see here. Ahmed, you saw a video where she was installing Arch Linux, picking everything from the ground up and gets the term. Honestly, I'm not sure. I've never done Linux racing. So we have that. So what I'm going to do now is we've done the Mate. We're going to install Ubuntu. So the KDE desktop environment. Thank God for gigabit internet. And we're just going to keep the GDM3. This one's a bit, so KDE compared to Mate, it is a bit more powerful of a desktop. It's a bit more power hungry, so it is going to take a little bit longer to install this one. And then we've got two more that we're going to install so I can show you guys. And that's XFCE, which is a very lightweight desktop environment. So if you've got an older system with very few system resources, or a Raspberry Pi, XFCE would be probably the desktop environment you would want to go with, because it can free up other system resources for you to do things. So Mad Dog, for a lot of these things, there are entire communities and entire websites for, like, KDE Plasma has their, you know, they have a whole community for developing it, websites dedicated to it. There's also GitHubs, all of that. Honestly, Linux is to computers is kind of like the 3D printer, the Vorons and all that, and the kits of the 3D printing world is what Linux is to computers. Your imagination is the limit to what you can do, but at the same time, you know, you have like, you know, you could have a Voron where you built that, so you built your computer, but then you might want to add on, say, a stealth changer. Well, that's a whole other community with their own GitHub and everything, but they give you instructions on how their stuff works. So a lot of that is reading before you do something, or like I said, you can always go and download these things with them already in there. And because like a lot of Linux distributions are what we call live operating systems at first, where they'll run off the USB, you can just kind of mess around and see which one works for you. As far as, you know, bypassing within this, right now what this is doing is, you know, it's saying, hey, I want to install this. Cool. In order for this to run, all of these other things are needed to install. Do you want to go ahead with this installation? If you want to install it, you know, you kind of say yes. If you don't, you just say no. There's not a lot of research, Mad Dog, that goes into it, but just like anything, you know, trust but verify, and the verify in this case is doing a bit of research. You know, kind of like going through and on a 3D printer, you know, determining whether you're, you know, do you want to go clicky probe? Do you want to go beacon? Do you want to go an eddy sensor? Do you want to go Cardo? Do you want to go tap? All of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. And you can just sit here and go, hey, I'm going to try this, buy the parts, go build it, and find out if it works. And that'll do. Especially on a new system. But then there's other people that, you know, hey, what are the advantages of, say, advantages and disadvantages of tap versus cartographer and everything, and they want to know that, and it can help them learn a bit more. So if you're just using it for things like web browsing and stuff like that, you'll probably never even need to get into the terminal. You can do things based off of the web browser and the app store, and kind of treat it like, you know, a smartphone. Hey, oh, I want to do something. Let me go to this app on the smartphone. Oh, there it is. And then you can just install it. The app stores usually tell you, hey, you know, this is from a trusted source, or hey, you know, this one's in our repository. We don't know much about them. They've made it fairly easy nowadays. Okay, so we've got that one. Now we're going to hit the Ubuntu desktop, which Ubuntu is the XFCE desktop. But yeah, just like with anything, you know, there can sit here and be, you know, issues with anything. And to resolve them, you do need to do a bit of research. But that's also why I'm sitting here showing you guys Ubuntu, because there is a lot of support out there for it. And a lot of you guys are already used to the format that it uses from 3D printers. Like my personal preference, like on the machine that I'm running right here, this is running Fedora. James, he runs Arch, by the way. And then when you get into Linux community, you'll find out all about the I run Arch, by the way, meme, because yeah, it is definitely a thing. An Arch user will let you know every single time that they run Arch. And they are not hesitant about it.
We want to spread the love and the good word.
Ugh. All right. So we're almost done here. We've got one more desktop environment to install. Oh, and we're not going to install that one yet because that is actually going to remove Ubuntu desktop. So Ahmed, sometimes it can cause errors switching between. Usually it's, hey, find the one that you like and stick with that. And, you know, you can sit here and just download the distribution with that already in there from the get-go. In this case, I'm kind of just using this to show you guys different ways. So what we're going to do here, in order to switch these environments, I have to log out. And we're going to sit here and see. So when it comes here, I can click on my login, but then I have this little settings icon here. And that lets me choose the different desktop environments. So I'm going to go to the Mate. And then what a lot of people first coming from Windows do like about Mate is it kind of looks a bit like Windows. Difference is that there are bars up at the top, but you can adjust that, put it at the bottom. But you can see it's kind of a very familiar system to Windows, where you have just a start menu or a menu that pops down, and that's where all your programs are and everything. You know, we can still get into, we can just search just like in Windows. Terminal, so, or console or Mate terminal. I happen to have multiple terminals on here now because I've installed multiple desktop environments. But it's a very Windows-like environment. Now I can go here and say log out, and then log out. It'll log me back out. I'll click on my username again, and now I can say, hey, take me to KDE, which is Plasma. The full name of the KDE desktop is, you know, KDE Plasma. So we'll go to Plasma. Log in there. Little symbol changes here. Gives me a, hey, you're on KDE Plasma. I'm just gonna skip that. And you can see, again, this one a bit more Windows-like in their menu options. So, you know, it's a lot of times like some people prefer doing this because it's a bit more familiar to them with that little application window. And we're just going to close out the error there. But you can see you have your little taskbar with all your icons, just like Windows. Firefox and all that works the same way. But yeah, Ahmad, usually what I would say is, you know, once you find a desktop environment that works for you, I would just install that desktop environment from the beginning. That way you don't have to worry about, is there something in this desktop environment that interfered with this one? So now we're going to go into the XFCE. Oh. Nope, and it does not like that particular one, so we're going to go to the other one. And you can see this one's a bit more Macintosh-like. So Mac OS. You've got your little dock bar down here at the bottom. Your application window up here. Kind of combines Mac OS and Windows. This, believe it or not, was similar to how the GNOME desktop used to look, and for a lot of people, this is the desktop that is Linux, because this is how it was for the longest time. It was just like this. But what we're going to do now is log out and go back to the default one. And you can see it's kind of that quick to switch between them. So, you know, you can always play around with stuff. Or, hey, you downloaded a version of Linux and, oh, wait, I wanted to download this desktop instead of that one. Well, you don't have to go through the whole process again. You can install the one that you had and just switch your environment out. Now you can see GNOME, they kind of do a full screen start menu thing. And so this one is a little bit different than what Windows and Mac users would be used to. But yeah. Ubuntu does do some of their own little customizations to it from standard GNOME. But then we're going to go up and we're going to get the Cinnamon one installed. Because that's going to remove our Ubuntu. But the other cool thing about Linux is, let's say you did an update and everything. Well, you know, after any major update, it kind of makes a backup that, oh, I did something that was wrong. I could restart the computer, and when it boots up, it'll give me some options, and I can go back to a previous version before I sat here and did something that messed it up. And so, you know, hey, I can sit here, hey, I messed something up, let me go back. It goes through, redo something, it'll create a new instance. And so there are ways to recover if you do something. Now, like if you do the RM, which is remove, tac RF, which is recursive, so hey, remove the file I tell you and then everything below it. And then the F is force this removal. And then you tell it to do it on the root directory, which is /. Yeah, that little backup is not going to help you recover because it's going to remove the backup too. But yes, so yeah, Ahmed, that is the way I would say. Find one that you like and kind of stick to it. And then maybe every so often, you know, try out another one. You know, that's the great thing about the live operating systems is if you wanted to see, hey, what's changed in this environment since I last used it, you could throw it onto a thumb drive, boot up to that live environment and see how it works for you. If you like it, you can change your environment. If you don't like it, then you're not forced into it. So let's go here and we're going to go cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon. We're going to see how this does. But we may finally have done something that I was trying to do this entire time and break it. Because we have all these desktop environments on here. Some of them use the same thing, but this one might use a different version of this than the other, and so it'll uninstall this one, install this one, but then when you go to the other one, that's not there anymore. In this case, I am running this within a remotely. So this gives me the option. I'm going to force this off. Oh no. We're going to power it back on. And you can see it's defaulting to the matte. And I might not have gotten in time to get to the menu to do the backup. But then it went into cinnamon. So in this case, because it's a brand new install, that's one of the great things I like. It doesn't take much time. You know, I sit here and when you're doing this customization stuff, I always recommend doing it right at the beginning, because, you know, if something does go wrong, you don't have any of your files or anything on there already. All right, James, we'll do your little thing. So then what we can do is we'll just go and install the operating system all over again. But now we're going to try a new operating system here. Nope, that took long enough. All right, so we're going to see if James's little thumb drive will boot on this system. All right. One of the things I hate about these systems sometimes is when I first boot them up and I'm doing the remote, it does not give me the keyboard in time. There we go. Now we got our startup menu. So we're going to go F9 for our boot device. We're going to go to our flash drive. And we'll keep in disk. And I believe it's that one. EFI. Nope. Enroll key from this Ventoy. All right, so I'm just going to reboot because this is secure boot sitting here saying, oh, this isn't trusted. Which, worst case scenario, I'll just turn off secure boot, but if this worked this time, there we go. All right, so we're going to try James's Endeavor, boot in normal mode.
There's a very specific reason we're going with Endeavor OS this time. And it's not because it's Arch, even though it is. We'll see why here in a couple seconds. When you go to install Endeavor, it gives you not all, but a lot of the different options that you can do for desktop environments, for ways to boot the system. You'll see.
So this is just, it's kind of a more customizable Linux distribution right from the get-go.
In the installer, it gives you really good examples of what each thing does and why you might want to choose one over the other.
Yep. Thing, which is the thing that most of you will be familiar with. And we are going to the world of Arch. And now we're waiting for this very slow computer to do anything. So, Ahmed, we sit here and go, we are live typically Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, we're going to see if this will even let us go into the world of Arch. And we're in the world of Arch, and we are running KDE from the beginning. And yeah, I can tell that just based on the little menu icon right down here. That is KDE's symbol. So let's see here. I have never run this installer before, so let's sit here and take a look. Let's go start the installer. Let's do an online install. That way it can update as it's going. But again, you can see you can do an offline install. So you can do this without an internet connection. You'll be a bit more limited into what you can do. So yep, we're American English. New York time zone is fine. US keyboard is fine for me. So KDE Plasma. I don't know if I can make this any bigger for you guys. There we go. There we go. So you can see this is the KDE Plasma, which we're on.
Yeah, but this is the reason I wanted to, have us go through Endeavor as well, just because it's an easy way to see all the different customizable options that we were going through on Ubuntu, but just before you install.
Yep.
Like you're going to see here in a second, there's more than just the desktops that we were going through, and you'll see all the other options as well.
We have GNOME, which has a little dock at the bottom. That's the one that Ubuntu kind of uses. XFCE. Here's Cinnamon that I couldn't show you before, which is, again, it's a bit more Windows-like. Mate. Downside to being in Florida in a garage for a studio, ants. Let's see here. How you doing, Matt Owl? Welcome on in. Budgie, which, you can see a lot of these are quite similar, but like they might change the location of the taskbar or You know, they might use a different file manager.
Endeavor OS also at the bottom shows a little description of each of them and why you might want to use one over the other, stuff like that.
Yep. So you can see these are both the LX desktop environment, which is a very lightweight desktop environment. And i3 I've never used before, but I've used something similar. It's what we call a tiling environment, where when you open up a new window, instead of it just opening over top, it creates different tiles. So you can sit here and have like half your screen taken up with one thing and then have 3 smaller tiles on the other side of 3 different programs over there. Or, you know, have 3 in a row on the screen.
You can also see up top there's an option for no desktop. So let's say you want one that isn't here in the installer already. You just click on no desktop and install the one you want after.
Yep.
The one that comes to mind, for example, would be like the new Cosmic desktop environment.
But you know what? Let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna do Cosmic. Let's see here. Desktop base and common packages. Yep. So the Endeavor OS packages. Yep, and it gives you a description. So the first one, the desktop base and common packages, you know, that's recommended. These are kind of required for this to run. Endeavor applications, these are specific to the Endeavor Linux environment. Things like the terminal that they use and stuff like that. And so, you know, they're a general recommendation. Cody, we are going to be taking care of that next stream. That should be taken care of. General, you know, recommended applications. These are, hey, things like, you know, OpenOffice or LibreOffice, where it's not needed, but they can be nice to have. Firefox for a web browser, spell check, firewall for protecting yourself. LTS, which is long-term support, is kind of that stable, I'm just going to work environment. A lot of times you'll see like Ubuntu LTS 2604, which means that, hey, it's going to be guaranteed support for X number of years. And, you know, it may not have the latest updates or be on the cutting edge, but it's going to work. Printing support if you have printers, and then specifically ones for HP because HP likes to be special. We'll just keep it at those. So system. Now, I've always been a grub person. But
Which is interesting, because I like System D, because it tends to be a lot faster than Grub, in my opinion.
Yeah, Grub has just been the thing that I've done forever, so let's try System D.
Again, this is one of the things I like about Endeavor, is it gives you these options before you even install. It's just, honestly, Endeavor is just, it's an easy way to install Arch. Whether it's, you know, doing all the defaults, or you want to change everything. It's just an easy way to install it without having to go and compile everything yourself from scratch.
This is an option we didn't see before. It's a swap file. Now, what a swap file is, if anybody here is familiar with Windows, a swap file in Linux is the equivalent of a Windows page file. It does things like, hey, I've run out of system memory, so I can go into the swap file and kind of give myself extra memory on the hard drive. It's not going to be as fast, but it allows me to run things that way.
It's how you download more RAM.
Much slower, but kind of, yeah. But, you know, or it might be, hey, you know, I'm working on this right now. This little bit is for this other program that's kind of running in the background. So let me take that and put that in the swap file, and then bring the thing that I need right now up here, and I can kind of swap them in and out of memory to get you the best performance possible. In this case, I'm not going to do a swap file. Just because this is literally my test PC at this point. I just throw different things at it and see what happens. Okay. And then I'm going to tell it to log me in automatically without asking for a password, and we're going to install this. Install now. Now I need to look up how to install the other desktop environment we needed on Arch. Let's see here. I need Pop! OS. I did. Okay. That's Wayland. Install it on Arch. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be fairly simple. So we're going to wait for this to install, and then we're going to show you guys a different desktop environment. I gotta be stubborn. Oh. Oh. Those things are still going, and that's not going to be done for, good Lord, more than 24 hours. It's going to be done at 11 p.m. tomorrow night. That is a very long print. But I'm printing out 4 of these all at once, so... they came out pretty good. All right, so we're almost done. Gotten up to 80%. Oh, Mad Dog, if you're still here, those little pin holders pull the Daffy. All right, so we're going to tell it to restart now.
You broke it.
Yep, it doesn't like secure boot, so I'm gonna go to Toolbox and the Control-Alt-Delete command. And we're gonna go into our BIOS and just turn off secure boot on this one. Security. Secure boot configuration. Disable. And it's probably going to make me type in a number to say, hey, yes, I did. Yes, I turned off secure boot. This is authorized. It did. And this is what I was telling you guys about normally that you get, where if something went wrong, you can sit here and go and say, hey, go back to a previous version. We're just going to boot into the main OS here. Now, just like I was talking about different package managers, well, Arch uses... Nope, that wasn't. Arch uses a different package manager than Debian and Ubuntu, which uses apt. Arch uses Pac-Man. So we're gonna go Pac-Man.
And yes, that's Pac-Man like the video game.
Cosmic. And that should install. Oh. This is a little trick for all of you. Some of you that have been running Linux might not know about this, and those of you that are new, if you ever get this, hey, you need to be root to run this. You can actually type in sudo, so you know, super user do, and then 2 exclamation points, whereas in Linux those are called bangs, so sudo bang bang. And what that does is it says, run sudo, and then insert the command I previously typed. And we're going to do the default of all. Proceed with the installer. And you can see one of the reasons that they call it Pac-Man is it's doing its little install. You have the little C Pac-Man eating all the dots. Yeah, Cody, that sudo bang bang is a lifesaver. Oh, it gets even worse because there's another combination that's 10 times worse than just bang. That you'll see a lot in scripts. And you probably see it at the very beginning. And once this finishes here, I'll show you guys what that is and tell you what they call it in Linux world. Let's go full screen here. Okay, so this is that one. So modern kids would call this hashtag exclamation point. In Linux, that's called shebang. But yeah.
You wish.
Yep. Control L does not work in, yeah, the VS Code. I did not know that, because Control L is usually pretty universal. But clear also works. So we're just going to tell the system to reboot now that we've installed the desktop environment. And then, you know, reboot will work, sudo reboot will work. Sudo reboot now just says, hey, stop what you're doing and just reboot everything right now. Don't pass go, don't collect $200. I'm gonna have to change the boot mode that it's in because we told it. Yeah. Give me 1 second. There are different modes that all right. We're going to try it this way. Sudo system control set default graphical dot target. All right, so all I did right there was tell System D, which is the main overarching controlling program, to set the default boot mode to a graphical boot mode. I'm going to do a reboot and see if that worked. No, I don't want a pixie boot. Nope, so... Alright, I've got another command to try. Yep. Endeavor, I'll go. And if this doesn't work, I've got a few other things to try. There we go. All right, I'm going to tell it to skip the Wi-Fi because we've got an Ethernet. English is fine. US English is fine. New York City for our time zone. Cosmic Dark works. And oh God, I hate that. Go there. Next, finish. Now, other reason I wanted to show you guys this is for the tiling. So you can see, like, I can open up Firefox here. And that opens up in the window. But then I can open up a terminal. And notice it automatically created a tile. But then I can open up this. And now my Firefox here is taking up this full one, but these are only taking up half screens. But I can kind of move these around. Well, if I was directly on the computer, I could. Yeah. Super. Because I'm in a remote desktop environment, it will not let me do the normal way. But there are keyboard shortcuts to change around these tiles and everything, but you know, hey, oh, I'm done with the terminal. Let me close that out. It automatically tiles it so that the screens are taking up the full thing. And if I close out this one, that one just goes back to full screen. If I turn off the tiling, it's just like window environments you're used to. You know, hey, I have Firefox up. If I open up a terminal, that opens right on top of it. Now, Pac-Man is not a brain farting on Word. A package manager that I am used to. I know. Update. Yep. Sudo Pac-Man tac capital S YU. So they use a bunch of tac commands. And everything's up to date, so.
Yeah, so with Arch, they use Pac-Man. The tac capital S stands for, it's basically their version of have to install. Y means yes, U means update.
So you could also do, you know, capital tac, Pac-Man tac capital S U to sit here and say, hey, check for updates, and then ask me if you want to install. Because you may not want to install everything that can be updated. But but what I'm going to do now that we have this installed, I actually am just going to go back. I'm going to reinstall Ubuntu here. Look at this. Yep, that's right. This, restart, confirm. So we're just going to reinstall Ubuntu here because I'm going to show you guys installing Orca Slicer and all that on Linux. I could, but it's easier. It's going to be easier. Got to get my Mountain Dew. I have so many of those little pen holders to print out. So does anybody have any questions or anything, any Linux stories or things that they're wondering on Linux? Welcome back, Down Under. Let's see here. Down under, are you running OBS on Ubuntu right now, or? ADEB, in the background, yes, those are 3D printers. Hey, if you guys want to ask questions, you know, I can't guarantee how fast I'll get back to you, but, you know, like Mad Dog says, I do have a Discord, and, you know, people are welcome in there, you know, where a lot of the people in there are currently in the 3D printing community, but, you know, Linux community is welcome as well.
Down under, I have your answer. You can use Arch.
So down under. Are you using the one that came from the Ubuntu store, or are you getting it from a Debian package from OBS themselves? All right, Debian OBS package. I was gonna say, usually with the Debian packages, they're usually pretty good. So even OBS admitted that their Debian package was bad. Yeah. I can say I've done it on Fedora and it works. Because Fedora is the main distribution that I use around the house and everything. What we can do here. Let me look something here. I'm wondering if it's still going to be messed up in the new version of Ubuntu. What we can do is, once this installs down under, let's try installing it live here. Because that'll also let me show you guys how to add repositories, which repositories are just places that the Linux operating system can go to look for different software and updates. So yeah, we'll sit here and show you guys how to install Orca Slicer on Debian, and then how to install a repository or set up a new repository that wasn't built into it. So that way you can install from a third-party repository. The big thing with installing repositories is you have to be careful. You don't, just because someone says, hey, put this repository on and then you can install this, doesn't mean that that the source is trusted, because they could sit here and that's the way how malicious actors get into Linux computers, is a lot of times through bad repositories, because they might sit here and say, hey, here's this repository, it has a newer version of this program. Well, cool. The system, when you go to tell the system to update, he goes, oh, I can get a newer version from here, and installs it. Well, what was new about that version is they changed the code to install it, to make it so it installed some sort of malware on your system, and then you're off to having a very bad day. Oh yeah, once we get this up and going and I show you how to do these two things, we'll probably call it for the night. And then next week we'll be back and we'll be working on a Voron. As long as my package shows up when it says it's supposed to. Because I have plans. And I want to get stuff done. And I'm going to hopefully try to have some fun. We'll see how things go. Primal Stone. If anyone doesn't know the reference, it's a animated show, not Japanese anime, on Netflix called The Dragon Prince. And every single time, like James and I are watching, it's actually a pretty good show, but every single time you hover over the icon and it does its little Netflix preview thing, it goes over this scene where this idiot's talking about like this magic stuff. He's like, yeah, so this primal ball, and the main character that does know about magic has a Scottish accent, or Scottish Irish, kind of a mix. Let's go Celtic. And they go, Primal Stone. James was looking at me. I know I had to just say something stupid. Yeah, I did.
I don't think you did, actually.
Cracked into a second liquid death. That's why I'm glad I bought a liter. Oh, Down Under Maker. I did have the Tim Tams I had were the caramel ones. They do have at my local market the original flavor ones, which I will be picking up. Gonna try those. Actually, hey James, can you do me a favor? Can you go into the kitchen, and as soon as you go into the kitchen, on the left hand side there's that shelf. You'll see something from Cadbury on there. I just got the munchies. James says he got the munchies too, but unfortunately he doesn't like chocolate, so... I just found these today, and I had never seen them before. Those of you overseas may have seen these before, but these are new to me. Cadbury Timeout Roundy. And I was just like, I want to try it. Individually wrapped, that's what they are. That's kind of cool. Hey, I can open the package and I don't have to worry about them going bad. Okay. Okay. So it's a circular wafer. Quite interesting.
More betterer, you say?
Unfortunately, down under, I don't know the reference, so. Nope. Apparently James does, though.
It's hard to say it, it's all stupid.
Well, these aren't that bad. There is another version of these. I'll keep an eye out for them. I still have another food thing that I'm going to do when we hit the next milestone, which I believe is at 300 subs, which we're about halfway there. I'm going to try some British cuisine this time. There are two things that I'm debating between. Because I gotta save the other one for the next one. No, I will not put these two together. No. Yeah, I saw that down under. Congratulations. I was gonna say I still need that link for the I don't think I haven't looked, but I don't know if you posted it for that micro soldering kit. Oh, and let's go ahead and restart. Because, yeah, that micro soldering kit looks kind of interesting. Let's see here. So the system's rebooting. We're just waiting for it to give us that message of, hey, remove the... Well, I can definitely say I will wait till the dispute's done, because I definitely know if the seller's not willing to stand behind their product, probably not something that you want to put out there and put business towards. Because, yeah, if they were supposed to come with something and they didn't, yeah, I'd expect them to correct that. And if they don't, I can definitely agree with not promoting them. Okay, so remove the installation media. And press enter. I do like that. I do like the new booting logo. Okay. We're going to get through this little initial setup. No, you can't have location. No, you can't have that on this system. Dark mode. Finish. Okay, so let's open up Firefox. And we're going to go... to Orca Slicer. Download now, and this is why I say for new people it can be kind of nice, because they have one specifically for Ubuntu, or for the most other Linux distros you can do the flat pack. Now Orca does do theirs through app images. And a lot of times with app images, you have to go into their properties and tell it, hey, this can execute like a program. So we're going to see if this one is going to work, because I am actually on a newer version of Ubuntu than the 2404 that they were showing, because 2404 was the last one that was out for the long-term support. They literally just a few days ago came out with this 2604 that we're running right now. But while we're waiting for that to see if it'll come up and run, or if I've got to do some other stuff with it, let me show you how to add that repository. So it's just sudo, because we need to do this as a super user, apt, or sorry, add tac apt tac SITORY, and then in this case it's PPA for the package manager, colon OBS project slash OBS dash studio. We're waiting for this thing to authenticate me and install it. And I don't think our app image is going to run. Okay, so we're going to say, yes, you can add it. So I'm going to enter to continue. Yeah, app images seem to be one of those things where it's on this distribution, it runs fine. But on this one, it was missing this little thing from the get-go. And so it won't run. And then it gets into Mad Dog where he was saying earlier, hey, you need to do some research. So this would be a case where, hey, while this thing is supposed to just run, you might need to install something else to get it to run. So let me see here. There might be oh, and so even aha. There might be a problem in OBS land. Because it's not even letting us add the repository. Okay. I'm going to see if this errors out on us again. Because what this is telling us is that the server that is hosting the OBS Studio repository is timing out, which may be related to the Ubuntu DDoS issue. Yeah, but in time, so I have a feeling that might be related to the DDoS issue. But remember I told you we were just talking about the app image and sometimes things aren't installed? Apparently libfuse 2 a lot of times is not coming installed automatically, which is needed to run app images. And so now that's installed, let's see if we can get this thing to run. No, this is not my first Linux. Almost every single machine I have actually runs Linux. But typically I don't run Ubuntu, I run Fedora. Right. Let's try one more time on the repository. Yeah, Zero Dot, we're also a 3D printing channel, so a lot of 3D printers run on Raspberry Pis, which are, a lot of them are Debian based. So we started with Ubuntu because a lot of people are familiar with it. Let's see here. Whoop. And we might be, let's see here. We're waiting to get a hit back from that PPA launch pad. Zero Dot, believe it or not, the Orca Slicer's flat pack has actually been doing pretty well. Okay. So that was unable to connect. So yeah, I think there might be something going on with Launchpad content. Because this time it didn't time out, but, well, it timed out as well, but it didn't error out. Let's just try. Doing the one that's in there. And that finished. Going to close that, and I'm going to try launching the Orca Slicer a different way. You notice I just right-clicked on here and said Open in Terminal. And in the terminal, I'm doing // which // means, hey, in the current directory I'm in, that's your base directory, and then this file. So I'm telling it to run that image there. Aha. So that's what it is. It's missing it's missing a dependency. Let me see here. I'm just looking for which version is actually here. So sudo apt search libfuse. Okay, so we need the libfuse 2T64. Okay. So apparently it did install that one. No. I'm gonna have to do some research on as to this, because let's do the flat pack. Apparently, oh, that's right. They use snap. Yep. So, Timothy, we've actually already done that. No, it's a known issue with app images where even after you go through and tell it, hey, you can execute it as a program, that they sometimes just don't run.
Let's use Ubuntu, he said. It'll be the easiest, he said. Guess who's right? Right again.
Yeah, there's zero dot. You gotta love Ubuntu trying to go with their proprietary snaps. You know something? I'm gonna shoot myself if this works. Nope. Okay, no, good. At least I wasn't going too crazy. Yep, and unfortunately we're also on the newest version, so the old tricks for the, hey, you just need to install the fuse library, which we've done, aren't working anymore. So that is a wonderful thing. Let's see here. Oh, don't you dare tell me that they're not sandboxing this anymore. Let's try it. We're going to try it without the sandbox. Nope. libglu. There probably is a tool that handles this. Ah. Let me see here. Okay, there's new files that need to be installed with this, so install lib open gl0 lib and libjack 0, and we already have the libfuse 2. Because apparently Ubuntu is so big on you using their snap packages now that they're not doing things like making it so that things that don't come from Ubuntu or app images that don't come from Ubuntu will run. Yep. Okay. John Doe, Ubuntu went to, instead of going the flat pack, they went via the snap images or snaps. So they don't have the flat pack installed by default. We could go through and get that installed, but in this case, I'm actually probably just going to recommend, going over to Fedora at this point.
I think you meant to say Arch. He was going to say Arch there.
Alex, you are right. Snap is the hill that Canonical wants to down. Yeah, when down under, you have it exactly right. When you escape Windows and the Linux distro that you're showing went Windows on you. But yeah, like you can see, this computer's running Fedora. The Orca Slicer Flatpak, no problem. So but John, yeah, we could sit here and get Flatpak installed. What? Oh, I have a package I have to get. Yeah, it's easy to install Flatpak, so let's go ahead and do it.
I agree with that.
Oh God. Okay. Apparently a guest has decided to join us. Let's see if she'll stay. No. She didn't want to stay. Okay. Oh God, snap install a Flatpak, that would be terrible. Let's Oh, did they get rid of the flat pack installer? Oh, it also help. I'm an idiot. It helps if you spell it right. Okay. The flat pack installer is there. Let's go to the downloads. And we're gonna have to do this a different way. Properties. I have no idea. And then I'm probably going to need to do a restart on this, so. Because we just changed a... Okay. We just made a core change by installing the flat pack, and sometimes those core changes... Oh, that's a lovely screen. It's pink. Yep. Refresh. Nope. I might need to do a different reboot, but let's go and just see if we can get the flat pack to run now. Because we have flat pack installed. Nope. Okay. Yep. There we go. Where did my terminal go? There it is. We're going to install the full GNOME plugin. See if we can get the flat pack to go this way, because this is the fun part of Linux. It's getting it to do things that the developer didn't intend for it to do. But we're going to make it do it. There we go. So we're just going to install. I don't care if you guys see this, because this is literally just a test system.
We use only the most secure passwords around here.
Yeah. Best password. Password. So what we pretty much just did is we sat here and told Ubuntu, stop using your store, which is snap based and all this, and just use the one that GNOME uses. By choice, yes. And there's Orca. So, if anybody sits here and does want to set up Ubuntu and use Orca, just remember,
Don't.
don't use the app image.
Just remember, don't.
Now, as far as the OBS thing, I actually, down under, I just installed OBS from the built-in repositories. Let's just say YouTube. No, you can't have a stream key. Yeah, we're going to cancel that. But down under, it looks like on Ubuntu, if you just install the one that comes with it, that one is working. Let me look and see what the current version of OBS is.
1.2.
So they have one in the newest Ubuntu down under. They already have a pre-compiled OBS on the newest version. Ah, it's just Crashtastic. Donald, no, I have not used Vaughn Live. But yeah, now you can see we have two software stores. We have software, and then we have the App Center. Because these... John Doe, we did that. There's something going on with the mirrors for OBS Studio right now. And they're timing out. It's specifically one mirror that is timing out. But now that we've rebooted, let's see if we can go through and do it again. Let's see if it still times out. Yep.
I blame Canonical.
So do I. Yeah, it's this launchpad content that was timing out. We'll see if it times out again. If it doesn't, we'll try the newest version. If it does, then I think we will call the stream here. Projects, how you doing? Yeah. John Doe, I'm not going to go too into it. This is more of a overarching kind of things to do. We can get, if people want to get more nitty gritty with Linux, we can definitely do some future streams on it. But we've been going for almost 3 hours now on Linux, so I think this is a pretty good place. You know, we kind of went over different desktop environments for people.
Incorrect.
Projects, that was actually Unix based. Mac OS used to be based on BSD, which is the Berkeley Standard Distribution of Unix.
Blue screen again.
Yeah, but both BSD was based on Unix and Linux is based on Unix. Yeah, so.
And that includes me down under.
So yeah, I think it's a good time to call it. We can sit here and always come back and do Linux streams later. This box is not going anywhere. It is literally my box for just doing stupid things with Linux. I have installed some stupid things on this box and done things that I would not recommend on here, including sitting here running a Windows VM on it and then intentionally installing infections on that VM just to see what they would do. Don't correct me with your facts. Facts have no place in this.
No, I'm in fact hired for being the one who fixed it.
But with that, let's see if anybody else is live right now. Believe it or not, I'm not watching it right now. If anybody is watching it, is Lee Marie still live, or are they about to end their stream? Because I see they're doing their giveaway. I can't rate out Down Under, but I can post a link in chat. Well, projects, you can always go live, and I can link to your chat, and then everybody can hang out there. All right, so Lee Marie's wrapping up. Is anybody else in the 3D printing community I know live right now? No, I'm not really seeing anyone. That's the downside to streaming so late. Everyone else has already done streaming for the day.
You could stream on Saturdays.
There's always a possibility. We might. Maybe one day. Especially if we get those season tickets. But, you know, so no one's really streaming on YouTube right now, so, you know, we'll go ahead and end the stream here. I'll be in Discord later tonight at some point, just to hang out and chat if anybody wants to join. The Discord link is in the description. But with that, you know, I've been Penguin Makers. Behind the camera and the mysterious voice is James Cube, and go make something awesome. Ugh.